dust is not visible, it doesn't mean your hands are clean enough. Lastly, follow the alternate no driving system to reduce the fine dust from cars. These are very simple yet powerful ways to protect ourselves from the fine dust. Let's all take part in this campaign and stay healthy. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, 부산영어방송.
During the span of 1,023 days, from August 18, 1950, 2 months after the Korean War had begun, until August 15, 1953, when the Korean government was re-established in Seoul, the city of Busan had served as the provisional capital. The president and government officials, soldiers and civilians had all made their way down to Busan to avoid the war. A city of 400,000 quickly turned into a city of 1 million. Since then, 8 places, which include the Provisional Government Building, the Busan Modern History Museum, and the UN Memorial Park, have been listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. In 2025, the list of World Heritage Sites will be finalized by UNESCO. Korea, one of the last remaining divided countries in the world, and the city of Busan, once the provisional capital, still value and send out that same message of peace. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어방송.
The time is now 2 o'clock.
Welcome to BFM News at 2. I'm David Kim. Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has warned South Korea of unspecified new counteraction if it continues to send anti-Pyongyang propaganda leaflets and broadcast loudspeaker messages across the border. This warning follows South Korea's resumption of propaganda loudspeaker broadcasts, a response to North Korea's repeated sending of trash-carrying balloons. Kim stated that if South Korea continues both leaflet scattering and loudspeaker broadcasts, it will face new counteractions from North Korea. She mentioned that North Korea sent 7.5 tons of waste paper and 1,400 balloons over the weekend, which she claimed contained no political propaganda, unlike the anti-Pyongyang leaflets from South Korean defectors. Health Minister Jo Kyu-hong said today that the government has ordered community doctors to continue providing medical treatment and report any closures of their practices. This directive follows a vote by the Korean Medical Association KMA to stage a one-day strike on June the 18th in protest against the government's medical reform. Jo stated that the order is based on medical law and is a necessary and minimum measure to protect public health amid the planned mass walkout by the medical community. The government will also investigate potential violations of fair trade laws by the KMA, which allegedly encouraged the strike. The Fair Trade Act in South Korea prohibits business associations from unfairly restricting competition or limiting individual activities. Jo emphasized that the government will review the legality of the KMA's actions in this context. In local news, Ha Yun-soo, the education superintendent of Busan, who was convicted of invalidating his election in the first and second trials for creating an election-like organization to campaign, has filed a constitutional petition. According to the Busan Metropolitan City Office of Education today, Superintendent Ha filed the petition with the Constitutional Court on the 7th. During the appeal, Ha's side argued that the exclusion of intra-party primary procedures in the superintendent election violates the principle of equality and that the clause prohibiting acts influencing the election from 180 days before the election to the election day is unconstitutional. However, this request was dismissed. The Education Office will conduct training sessions tomorrow and the 12th through YouTube for parents of first-year high school students, focusing on the high school credit system and student-centered curriculum. The training aims to enhance parents' understanding of the high school credit system, set to be implemented in 2025. In Busan, elementary school students will actively seek out and report safety hazards around their schools. The Busan Children's Safety Heroes held a launch ceremony at the Busan City Hall's main auditorium this morning and will commence their activities in earnest. The Children's Safety Heroes initiative empowers children to identify and report safety hazards around their schools. This program was designed to involve children in safety culture activities. In international news, Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz resigned from the emergency government, highlighting divisions over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's post-conflict plans for Gaza. Announcing his decision with a heavy heart, quote-unquote, Gantz criticized Netanyahu for hindering progress towards victory and called for setting an election date. Netanyahu urged the unity in response, while opposition leader Yair Lapid supported Gantz's move. Following the resignation, far-right National Security Minister demanded a place in the war cabinet, threatening to leave the coalition if Israel accepted a U.S. proposed ceasefire. And now taking a quick look at the weather here. It's currently 26 degrees Celsius under clear skies, with the afternoon highs to peak around 29. Air quality is in the moderate levels. And that'll have to do it for this hour's news. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Coming up next is 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
It is that time of the week again. Another Monday is here. Are you feeling optimistic about the rest of the week? Or is Monday already getting you down? Try to stay positive. Positive thinking can actually help with stress management and even improve your health. Studies show that being positive can have a big impact on your well-being. But it can also have an impact on others as well. So today we're going to learn how you can use positivity to influence people and help you succeed. It's Monday, June 10th, 2024. This is 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. Let's get it started. All right, feeling undefeated. That was Jason Derulo with Undefeated. You just heard there, and that's good. Keep the positivity up, right? Don't feel defeated. I know he was talking about last night or whatever, some party, but we can apply that in the daytime, right? And of course, you're listening to us live here in the studio in Busan on a Monday afternoon. Welcome to the program, everybody. We're on BEFM 90.5 here in Busan and 103.3 FM in Gijang, Jeongwan, and Noksan. And I'm your host, Casey McKeever. You can also listen to us in Seoul at TBS EFM 101.3 FM and also in Gwangju at GFN 98.7 FM. We're also streaming right now on YouTube. I see there. There we go. But there is an issue. So if you go to YouTube and search BEFM Busan영어방송, you can hear the show, but due to a music copyright issue, we won't be able to stream the music live there. So the music will be muted while the songs are playing. We apologize. You can listen to us, of course, with music on FM radio and on the smartphone app. And we apologize for the inconvenience for YouTube. We hope to get this issue settled soon. But let me get to what's going to be on the show today. In our first hour, we're going to have Hot Off the Press. We're going to check out all the hottest tracks from around the world of music. Today, we've got 2 for you. And Need to Know, Andrew is going to come in and bring in some stories that are perhaps not the headlines, but things he thinks you need to know. And he's always got some good stories ready for us. Then in hour number 2, we're going to have the daily list for today. We bring you a new list every day, usually might be the best, might be the worst. Today's topic is an interesting one. We're talking about staying positive, right? Being positive. How can that help you in life? Well, interesting. On the daily list today, we've got some psychology tricks you can use to influence people. Now, don't think you're going to take people's money or scam people. That's not the idea. Influence people in positive ways. After that, we'll have Me, Myself, and I, and I'm going to share some stories about, us as humans and how we behave, why we behave the way we do. And today's story is psychology related. We're going to talk about 5 psychological mindsets you need to succeed. And I think I'm going to try to listen to my own advice. I want to succeed too, right? And then we'll also have the perfect playlist. We think we picked the best songs for every situation, so we'll have those for you in the perfect playlist today as well. And I will be checking messages throughout the show, so please feel free to contact us. I have a question for you. I was talking about being positive and positivity. And actually today, I'm a school teacher. I also teach at a university, so I had my students do a presentation today. Today was the big day, and I think they were nervous about it. I think a lot of them were like, oh, really? Do I have to do this? And actually, this never happened to me before, but this semester, one student asked me to do a Korean presentation as an example, because this is an English class that I teach, right? So this student wanted to see how I would do if the tables were turned. Would I be able to do a presentation in Korean? And I think the other students were like, say what? Did you just ask the teacher to do that? And I thought about it and I was like, okay, cool. Sounds like a good thing. And so I did a Korean presentation for this class. And my topic was something a little silly. It was like Tepe Samgyeopsal, I believe was my topic. But I did it completely in Korean. It was my first ever quote unquote presentation in Korean. And I got a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. I've done presentations in many varieties, many forms, in front of many different groups of people. And this was like, oh, I have to do it in not my language. Oh, this is going to be a little tough. So I psyched myself up. I kind of challenged myself by taking this on, and I wanted to go through with it. And the thing I kept thinking was, okay, this will be good for me. This was kind of a phrase I kept saying to myself. You know what? I'm probably not going to do it perfectly. I might make a fool out of myself a little bit in front of my students, but this will be good for me. So that was a phrase that I used to kind of, in my mind, motivate myself to do a Korean language presentation in front of my students in an English class. So my question to you is, do you have something like this that you use? Is there a phrase or expression that you use to motivate yourself? 동기부여를 위해 사용하는 문구나 표현은 무엇인가요? So yeah, it could be something very simple. You can do it is one I think I hear people say a lot to other people. So maybe turn it around to you. I can do this. I've got this. Sometimes when I feel like some situation's coming up that I'm not ready for, I often try to like kind of downplay it. Maybe I say something like, okay, this is no big deal. This is nothing. I've done this before. I want to know what you use to motivate yourself. So please send in your answers. You can text us here at 샵9050 or pound 9050, and that costs 100 won. Or you can reach us on Kakao Talk. Just search BEFM or Busan 영어방송 in Korean. You can add us there and send us messages for free. And you can also reach us on the smartphone app. If you just go to your app store on your phone, search BEFM or Busan 영어방송 at any one of those app stores, and you can download the app. You can listen to the program, music included, and you can also leave us some comments after you log in. So that's what I'm thinking today. I'm trying to stay positive, right? Monday, we've got one day down. We've got quite a few days left to go in the week. So yeah, let's keep the positivity up. I see a message from Ryan Kim there who says, better late than never. I find myself saying that all the time because I am a bit of a procrastinator. That means I kind of put things off a little bit, right? I do things at the last minute. Yeah, so better late than never. Okay, cool. Maybe I didn't do it on time or as early as I wanted to, but I got it done. Better late than never. Nice. Cool. Yeah, exactly like that. What do you use to motivate yourself? So send us your messages. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do out there because I know what I've got in my head going on. It's always like, okay, I can do this. This will be good for me. Maybe I won't enjoy it completely, but I can do it. It will be good for me. Cool. So I'll be waiting on those. In the meantime, let's take a little song break. We're going to listen to Bed by Joel Corey, and we'll be back after that. right, welcome back. That was Bed by Joel Corey, and now it's time for Hot Off the Press. And we do this every Monday through Friday. We bring you two of the newest, hottest tracks from all around the world of music. You know, there's so many songs released every week, but we try to choose the best ones and give you a little background information on them too. So the two songs we got today, first, we've got All I Want by Tori Kelly. And this is a powerhouse vocalist. Perhaps you're familiar with the show Bridgerton. So Bridgerton Season 3 will be getting the full superstar treatment. Two-time Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter Tori Kelly will be the voice delivering the hit Netflix first ever original song. And that's All I Want, which we're going to hear. So All I Want will be featured on the soundtrack of the second part of Season 3, though Kelly actually debuted the song with a performance at the season's premiere event. So, you know, it's going to be featured throughout the show. I guess they're going to push this song hard, right? Since its debut, Bridgerton has actually been known for expertly incorporating modern pop music into the show by producing classical covers that play during ball scenes and romantic moments, because it is kind of a period piece, but they're trying to keep it with like a modern edge, right? So that'll be our first song. And our second song for Hot Off the Press today is To the Moon, and that's to the number 2, To the Moon by Pitbull, Neo, and Afrojack, featuring DJ Buddha. Okay, so it's a lot of people involved here. This is, I think you may have heard Pitbull before. I definitely know his voice. He's got a very distinctive voice. He's a Grammy Award-winning global superstar. And in this song, Pitbull reunites with the iconic DJ and producer Afrojack, and also R&B legend Neo for another summer hit. So you're probably going to be hearing this song quite a bit for the rest of the summer, I guess. And this track kind of rekindles the chemistry that they initially sparked on the generational smash Give Me Everything back in 2011. So for To the Moon, this is kind of a classic Pitbull banger. You'll see what I mean. There's a lot of hand clapping, there's a tropical groove, boisterous horns, and Afrojack's signature production. So I hope you enjoy these two new tracks for Hot Off the Press today. First, All I Want by Tori Kelly, followed by To the Moon by Pitbull, Neo, and Afrojack featuring DJ Buddha. All right, welcome back. That was hot off the press for today. You just heard To the Moon by Pitbull, Neo, and Afrojack, and that was featuring DJ Buddha. The title is very, very long. So many people involved. And before that, All I Want by Tori Kelly. And of course, we were just talking before that. I asked you the question of the day. And what is a phrase or expression you use to motivate yourself? 동기부여를 위해 사용하는 문구나 표현은 무엇인가요? So, of course, you can send us your messages here at 샵9050 or pound 9050 for 101. You can reach us on Kakao Talk for free. And, of course, if you download the smartphone app, you just search BEFM or 부산영어방송 at your app store. You can download the smartphone app there. And after you log in, you can leave us a message as well. So I wanted to share one we got from 6275님, who says, if others can, I can do it as well. And I totally use this one. 6275 Nim says, that's my mantra when doing new things. And also another question I'll answer in a second. But yeah, that's something I totally do. I've got a list of, I think, 3 people in my mind. One of them being my dad, and then 2 of them good friends of mine. And I'm like, all right, so I've seen this person do this. If he can do it, I certainly can do it. So yeah, I definitely use that one a lot. So yeah, good suggestion. If others can do it, I can do it as well. Cool. Oh, and also 6275 Nim has a question. By the way, what happened to Steve? Right. I am not Steve. My name is Casey McKeever. So it's a very good question. Steve has moved on to other new challenges in his life, and he's, I'm sure, going to do great things. And in the meantime, I'm trying to make this show as great as possible, like he always did. So thank you for tuning in. And I definitely appreciate the questions, definitely appreciate the comments. Also, Ben Nim checking in, who says, congratulations to the first all-Korean presentation, Casey. 감사합니다. Yes, I was saying before that the reason I was thinking about this is my student actually, you know what, I'll talk to Andrews about this too. I'm curious what he thinks, but I had a student actually ask me in an English class where I had them coming up to do presentations. A student was like, how about, can you show us a Korean presentation about Korean culture? And I was like, all right. And it was a challenge I'm glad I accepted. Was it a perfect Korean presentation? Of course not. But it was a great experience. And I kept thinking like, oh man, I don't really have to do this, do I? But at some point I was just like, come on, man, you can do this. I've got it. And this will be good for me. It was a good experience. So I'm glad I did it. So yeah, please send in your messages. I'm enjoying the questions. Also, Ben saying here, I was really craving food. I did mention my topic. It was a ridiculous one. It was tepe samgyeopsal was my Korean culture topic that I presented to my students. But they thought it was fun and funny. And so I guess tepe samgyeopsal is not so common in Europe, according to Ben. There's not any Korean restaurants in the heart of Germany. Oh, wow. But I think they're kind of taking all over New York and LA from what I hear. There's samgyeopsal everywhere. So yeah, Korean food might be coming to you soon. Hang in there, Ben Nim. So yeah, with that, we're going to come back with Need to Know with Andrew. And I'm going to see what he thinks about my Korean presentation. All right, it is time for Need to Know with Andrew. Andrew's in the studio. Good afternoon, sir.
선생님! 선생님! 한번만 하세요!
She did it in English, though. She made the
okay.
request in English.
Oh, fair enough.
How would you feel if one of your students was like, all right, tough guy, you're going to make us stand up here and do English presentations in front of an English native speaker? Why don't you do a Korean presentation in front of a bunch of Korean native speakers?
My response would be, this is not Korean class, this is English class.
Right.
And if you'd want to see that, come to my class at 6 p.m. when I learn Korean. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. I would probably... I think if you can somehow put yourself on the same level as those you're teaching and show them that you make mistakes as well. And I mention this in every class I have, that, you know, when I'm speaking Korean or learning Korean and these things, I make these same mistakes. You know? So, yeah, I probably would have thrown something together.
I did, yeah. Quickly. I didn't put as much time as I should.
I would have been like a week and... having online things with, you know, how do I sound and stuff. No, I don't know. I probably would have thrown something together. At least, you know, given them something.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And actually, I wish I had practiced more.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the case. All of my students are the same way. I had them do presentations today.
Sure.
That's how they came up. So they probably were wishing that they did a little more practice. But,
yeah, definitely.
But I even brought it up today. I was like, before they started, I was like, you saw me do it in your language. And was I perfect? No. I answered for them. I said no. And I asked them, okay, what was one thing you would advise me to do better?
Ah, great.
And they said, be careful with banmal. So, because when you give a presentation in Korean, it should be like usually no banmal. And I was like,
that's very true.
죄송합니다.
Yeah, that would be my issue as well. And I think for the majority of people learning Korean as well, you learn things, you tend to drop endings and things like that. And, even though you were probably the oldest in the room when you're giving a presentation, it doesn't really matter.
And that was a good segue into making them feel more comfortable. I was like, okay, I made that mistake. And was this the worst Korean presentation you've ever seen? And they were like, nope. And I was like, okay, cool. And you know what? Keep this in mind. It's, in this classroom setting, you don't have to worry about that. Especially in English, you don't have to worry about nopenmal, right? It's all good.
It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. So to psych myself up for that experience, I had this phrase that I use quite often. It was, this will be good for me. That's what
is that your motivational phrase?
I think so. I think it's something I just kind of go to when I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this, but all right, this will be good for me. Just do it. Do you have something?
I got two.
Okay.
I got two. I wrote them when you were talking. I wrote them down. There's one here. It's by an American. He's kind of an influencer, but he's like a hunter. These kind of things. But he has a T-shirt and it says, "Nobody cares. Work harder."
I know. Is his name Mike?
Cam Haynes.
Oh, okay. I was mixing it with the Mike the Dirty Jobs
guy. There's a few of them, yeah. And then, probably Mike from Dirty Jobs as well.
Right.
And another one I use for, when I was in school or I'm talking to my kids and they're doing things is, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
And you actually tell that to your kids as well?
Sometimes, when we're going through stuff because, my son's trying to practice piano and he gets frustrated, doesn't want to do it. And I say to him, hey, do you think this is easy? He's like, no. I said, can daddy do this? He's like, no.
Definitely not.
And I'm like, well, then, if everyone could do it, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So you're already, above and beyond most people. So just keep practicing.
It's special. Yeah. What you're doing is special.
Exactly.
It takes effort. Cool.
Exactly.
Those are great examples. Nice. So send us, if you have those kinds of phrases or expressions that you use for yourself to motivate yourself. Yeah. 보내세요.
Yeah.
I'm curious what other people do to kind of psych themselves up. But of course, we're here for Need to Know. So I should get to that, right?
Yes.
What are we going to talk about today, Andrew, on Need to Know?
We got two stories here, and one of them I think is very... I guess it's very good timing, we'll say.
Okay.
All right. So, as someone who's lived in Busan for a good amount of time, both of us actually, and Pete and him, obviously, we're coming up to the summer season. Mm-hmm. What is a seasonal summer sound that some people may enjoy, but others will just say they tolerate? I'll give you a hint. It's from an insect.
So it's not motorcycles.
No.
Because that's one that can definitely drive people crazy.
Yes.
So what is that annoying bug called? In English, kemi. No, kemi is ant.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it in Korean?
Memi. Yeah,
Memi.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is a cicada. Some people say cicada. But I think of John Cicada when I hear that.
I think,
right.
It sounds too suave. Cicada sounds a little more annoying.
That's the ones that have a swagger when they walk.
That's right.
All right. So, are you a fan of them?
I hate them.
You hate them?
Do you?
I think at this point in time, I just am used to them.
Really? You get used to that sound?
Yeah.
Can we hear what it sounds like? It's a terrible sound.
Do we have? Here we go. We got it?
Oh, gosh. So you get used to that.
A torture chamber.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reason we're talking about this today, one of the most peculiar of North America's natural wonders, this is kind of funny, a natural wonder, synchronized mass mating frenzies of big, obsessed insects called periodical cicadas. Now, it's playing out across North America right now, the southeastern and midwestern United States. So when we have them here, we had them for the months of the summer, and then they die off or they go back underground.
Wherever they go.
Exactly. But they're kind of tolerable in the sense where they're not like the plague of the locusts, we'll say, or something like that. But this year, 2024, offers a particularly good display.
In North America, this is.
Yeah, the biggest in geographic extent of all NSYNC groups. Now,
NSYNC?
NSYNC, yeah, not the band. Maybe this is where they got them from.
Because they annoy me too.
But they're called broods.
Oh, like Alien.
Exactly, right?
Like Alien. They do look like aliens too. Have you seen them?
Yes.
They're huge.
They're amazing.
Oh,
they're amazing.
yes.
So this one is known as Brood 19, and it spans roughly, now as an American,
Yeah.
picture this, from Georgia to Illinois.
That's a big distance.
That's like half the country.
Yeah. I mean, almost literally might be half the country, right? Yeah. That's a good drive across the country for sure.
Exactly. So, love them or hate them, periodical cicadas offer nature watching at its friendliest because
Really?
they don't sing, they don't bite, they don't do anything.
They don't make any noise?
Well, they make noises.
That's kind of sound we heard.
I love that Casey's face is just turning up like he just smelled somebody pass gas.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on?
Like when you're like at a bus stop, for example,
Yeah.
once they start going, and if there's like a tree nearby, the whole time you're waiting for the bus, you're like, oh.
That's better than listening to the people beside you, though.
That's true. There you
Yeah.
go. Some people get loud on the phone. You know what I'm saying?
It's very true.
So yeah, maybe it's better than that.
Exactly.
So you think a lot of people actually go watch them?
Well, I think it's they might go out if there's like a mass of them. Like when we think you might find 4 or 5 in a tree,
Right.
or there might be more than that, or you might see them as they've. My kids like to collect the shells.
Really?
Like from when they've climbed out of their exoskeleton and then
gross.
they've grown wings. That's where the noise comes from, the wings, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
But it's pretty amazing. But here you can see them, it's like almost like a mass migration essentially is what you're going to see them as. And people are just besides themselves because they've never seen anything like this before.
Okay, so all right, in case people don't know, so in Korean they're memi, right? Is that
Yes.
the word for it? So memi. So what is a cicada? And if people don't know.
All right, so there's 7 cicada species causing the fuss in North America right now. This spring,
7?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
so
7
there's a
different
bunch of
kinds.
different kinds,
right?
okay.
So this is the special 7 get called locusts, but they're not. All right,
It's not the same thing.
Exactly. So cicadas are family traits are glassy wings. If you've ever seen them up close,
Yeah.
or dead on the road, usually is when you usually see them.
Crunch.
Piercing soda straw mouths.
Gross.
And this is exactly. The
Gross.
bugs drive their tiny straws into the plant's water plumbing system. There's a lot more about, the water nutrition, this kind of stuff, is they get this when they're underground as well. And that's why they're always around tree roots because they get all their nutrition from them, all right? So I'm sure everyone's seen the memes around these kind of things, but why are they coming out now?
Yeah, because it's a yearly cycle for us.
Yes.
Right? But the difference is in North America, it's not every year.
And it's similar here too. Now you might say, oh, I see some cicadas. But they've been underground for 7, maybe 10 years.
Ah, it's a cycle.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So the periodical cicadas live a rare life cycle of supersynchrony. They survive for 13 or 17 years.
In the ground.
Yeah, and then they come out and they might come back. So young and hungry, they burrow here and there in the soil, sucking nutrients out of plant roots. Just these evil little things, aren't they?
I know.
For 17
Eat the
years.
plants.
And they really do live that long. It's kind of unbelievable. And after a life of sucking underground plant juices, all right, everyone develops an interest in this for their first time of mating. All right. They want to get out. So the youngsters dig upward into the sunlight and metamorphosize. So their bodies change into the adult parts, and that's where you see them. They'll climb out of that exoskeleton that we see.
Oh, so gross.
Which is pretty, I love it. It's amazing. And then it's a suddenly crowded place with young adults. They're flirting, they're making noise.
It's a club.
And mating, exactly.
It's a club.
a
It's just
cicada
as
club.
annoying as going to a club.
It is.
It's loud and busy. All right,
Totally.
so they have this big mating experience, right? So
Yes.
then they go back underground?
Well, sort of. So after a loud and lively a few weeks here, Chicago has millions of cicada eggs hidden in gashes in trees, in twigs, anywhere they can put their eggs, they'll do it. All
I
right.
gotcha.
And then all the parents drop dead.
Oh, so that's it.
Yeah. It's
Goodbye.
kinda like, see you later.
Okay.
Now, within a few months, the next generation hatches into the citywide cicada deathscape is what they're calling. This one's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Then they fall and they go into the trees and they go underground and then it starts the cycle again. Now, one of the things here people often ask is, how do they know it's been 17 years, 15 years, 13 years
right.
or whatever?
Do they tag them? Like, how is that possible?
Well, it's this kind of funny. So the cicadas themselves, they rely on seasonal clues.
Okay.
All right. And, the roots, so when they're getting their nutrition from the roots, they know when the seasons have changed.
Okay.
Because there might be more, there might be less, it might be sweeter, it might not be. And because of the sunlight, the weather, everything affects it. All right.
Okay.
So, and then if they come out at the wrong time, it means they might be at a greater risk of being eaten. So this is why they've developed.
Adapted.
Exactly. They've adapted for years. So it is pretty interesting. If you'd like to read more on this, there's a ton of stuff out there right now about this big mass mating season that's going on across the United States, essentially. And some of the photos that people are predicting on what it's going to look like is pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I'm sure there's going to be lots of videos and things like that, but it won't be as bad here in Korea.
Right.
Or maybe one of them is just bad enough for Casey.
I'm good with the variety of species we got here. I'm good with that.
All righty.
All right, thanks, Andrew. So I tell you what, let's take a quick song break.
Sure.
And then we'll be back with more for Need to Know. This is Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz. All right, that sounded like Memi to me. Yeah, the beginning and ending of that song, that reminded me of Memi.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
that was Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, and we're back with Andrew and Need to Know. And before the break, we learned about the mating rituals of cicadas. Basically, they club it until they die.
Yeah, until they die. Yeah.
That's so sad. That's so sad. But they live underground for a long, long time. So I don't feel too bad for them.
Yeah.
Right? What are we going to talk about next, Andrew?
All right, question time. Have you ever felt as if you were a different person when you were communicating with people online compared to when you communicate in your day-to-day life offline?
Yeah, actually, I feel I communicate differently depending on who I'm with. Like even face to face, I feel like right now,
Sure.
the way I communicate with you and the way I communicate with a group of students is completely different. So,
100. I call it my phone voice.
oh yeah, you go up. Do you go up and
No,
register?
you have to, right?
Hi
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi.
I worked at
How
a
are
call
you?
center a long, long time ago, and it'd be like, "Hi, this is Andrew from," and it's like, no, it's all right.
Yeah, you try not to do that
Exactly.
in your private life.
100%.
Right? So yeah, I think that makes complete sense that people would be different online and offline
Exactly.
too.
So, according to new research, almost half of Gen Z Americans, so Gen Z, for those who don't know, is from 1997 to 2012.
Oh, like me.
That's Gen Z. Exactly. We're in that boat for sure.
Yeah,
All right. They feel they're living a double life between their online and offline selves.
Ooh, like
All
Batman.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So the survey of 2,000 American respondents split evenly by generation found that 46% of Gen Z respondents feel this duality where their personality online vastly differs from how they present themselves in the real world. But they're not the only ones with this feeling that was shared by 27% of respondents across generations, with 38% of millennials feeling the same way,
Right.
18% of Gen X, and 8% of baby boomers. So I think that's kind of, you go down the list, the older you get, I think is what, why people would feel like that. You know what I mean?
It makes sense because like maybe as you're, when you're younger, you're still maybe not so sure of your own identity anyway. You're kind of building your identity.
But I also think that maybe, say, baby boomers don't really, they might have a bigger footprint online, but it's not as in a way that, say Gen Z would be
it's
dealing
not the
with
same
their
purposes,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not, perhaps dating profiles, for
100%.
example, right? But
Totally.
as a Gen Xer, I'll fess up. As a Gen Xer, I would say I do feel some kind of difference between
Sure.
my online and offline self, but yeah, like not a big one.
All right, so
Yeah.
we don't need to go through the age groups here. I'm technically a millennial, just on the cusp.
You
of
youngster,
that.
look at you.
There we go. All right,
Youngin'.
so respondents were also asked if they're keeping their online persona a secret from any family members, because you got to think it's how you and I may interact with people online is very, very different from, say, gamers, people who are in, I don't want to say the metaverse, but it's something like that.
Yeah, I mean
essentially,
that's
right?
that's a whole new culture.
100%.
Sure.
1/5 of respondents agreed, and across younger generations, 31% of Gen Z respondents admitted their online world is a secret from their family, with 27% of millennials who said the same.
Yep.
Now, this is all with conducted by one poll on behalf of a computer company here, trying to it's their campaign of Work for Humankind, a project to meet your digital self. So
Right.
what they were doing is they were trying to design, 3D avatars so that they could actually see what these people would be like interacting with them.
I
so
see. Okay.
give them a real face-to-face with their online self, essentially.
So in other words, meet yourself in a
Exactly.
way. Oh, that is kind of
Yeah.
a weird thought. But yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense because you might not be aware how you come across online unless
Totally.
somebody kind of shows you from a different perspective. And then
100%.
I wonder if you don't like it. You
Yeah.
know, I wonder if you're like, ugh. So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, what was the point of that? Was it the point to kind of give them a different perspective on themselves?
Well, so the goal was to enable meaningful conversations between Gen Z participants, their family, and their avatars, deepening understanding of each of the three participants' online worlds. Now, the survey highlighted that the value of these conversations, as 53% of Gen Z respondents said it's easier to express themselves online than offline.
Yeah.
Now, that's compared to 40% overall, and it kind of just, again, goes down as further you get older, I guess.
Not surprising, right?
And exactly. And while it may be easier for some respondents to express themselves online, half admit they sometimes feel a disconnect between who they are online and offline, with the number, again, the highest with Gen Z at 68%.
Okay, and when you bring that up like as a disconnect, then it sounds like suddenly there's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, it's one thing to kind of deal with people differently in different groups and different ways. I think that's something we all do in
100%,
person, right?
Without a doubt.
But when you feel like there's a disconnect, it also kind of indicates maybe there's something not true or something you're hiding, right?
Exactly. So for those who experience this disconnect, regardless of age, it's led to feelings of anxiety, loneliness, and depression.
Right.
Now, respondents were also asked what they were more comfortable sharing online. About a fifth of them were comfortable sharing their ambitions, their fears or insecurities, and their beliefs, political or otherwise, and possibly religious as well, and online rather than offline. And I think in the world we live in today in Korea, it is a little bit different, I think, than, say, in America, where the political landscape is very polarizing.
Sure.
And then also religion and different things going on around the world at this point in time. If you said things out loud, face-to-face to people, the repercussions could be quite big.
What's the term? Is it a keyboard warrior?
Keyboard warrior.
Somebody's like tough
Social
online.
justice warrior kind of person.
Well,
but it's also when you're anonymous.
Right, that's it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. So you kind of have this ability to just put your feelings and thoughts out there and kind of think that's not going to come back to you. But who knows, in the future, what kind of records are being kept. So be careful with that, actually.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like a lot of the things that people just wouldn't feel comfortable talking about in person anymore.
Yeah.
Especially politics, especially religion, especially social inequality in many forms, right?
And I'm sure that like some of our listeners, maybe they feel the same way, or if you have children who are in these age groups, they might also feel the same way as well. So it might be interesting to have a conversation or just talk to some other people about it.
Yeah, I think this is something I will talk to my kids about. You know what I mean? Like this is something.
It's something. My oldest is 9. He doesn't really have a footprint on the web, so to say.
Right.
But it's something that's definitely going to come up at some point.
It will.
Yeah.
So good to know. So that's exactly why we need to know. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming in again on this Monday. We'll see you, of course, next week as
Have a
well.
good one. Yeah.
Right?
Cheers.
And that's all we've got time for now. We're going to take a song break with Vance Joy and Saturday Sun, and then we'll be back at 3 p.m.
Oh, Saturday.
Your bridge to the world. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hello, I'm Mona Farouk from Egypt. When I moved to Busan in 2014, my daughter was only 12. She came with me and her brother because I started my work as a professor of Arabic language in Busan University of Foreign Studies. I remember how excited my kids were when seeing the first snow in Busan. That year, my daughter started special training for figure skating. In Busan, she was lucky to be able to take serious steps in achieving the dream of becoming a professional ice skater. Many foreigners come to Busan carrying their love for the Korean culture. I was one of those who were fond with Busan's culture, society, history, and all aspects of Korean life. Busan, the city of opportunities. Global City Busan. We are in it together. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산영어방송.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
All right, that was Miracle by Rini. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. Yeah, this is 3 p.m. and we're back for the second hour of the show. That song was by a Filipino-born singer-songwriter. His real name is Justerini Sandoval. I wanted to look him up. It was I was digging that song. Nice, kind of chill, definitely a retro kind of sound. He was born in the late 90s, which I guess would make him millennial, I guess? Gen Z? Gen Z, I think Andrew said. So his earliest musical memories came from his parents' CD collection. I think that's probably true for me as well. And that was everything from the R&B of Michael Jackson to the rock of Bon Jovi. I was definitely feeling some kind of 80s synth kind of funk influence there. His father was apparently often away at sea and collected instruments while he was traveling, and that resulted in Rini having a guitar of his own, and then he learned his own first guitar chords that way. So I guess at the age of 10, they moved to Melbourne in Australia, and he became part of the local church community there. And I guess the bandmates he had taught him how to play keyboards, bass, and drums. So before long, he was, uploading heartfelt covers of R&B chart hits online, and by the age of 17 was writing his own material. Cool. I wonder what phrase he was using to motivate himself to learn all of those instruments. I've got this. This is great. I'm doing great, probably. Yeah, he's obviously very talented person there. So you're listening to us here on the 2 p.m. Reboot. My name is Casey McKeever. We are in the studio here on Monday afternoon in Busan. You're listening to BEFM 90.5 here in Busan. And if you're in Gijang, Jeongwan, and Noksan, you're listening to us on 103.3 FM. In Seoul, we're on TBS EFM 101.3 FM. And in Gwangju, we're on GFN 98.7 FM. So we're glad to have you listening. Thanks for joining me today. We've been talking about kind of psyching yourself up, motivating yourself, all in kind of the vein of staying positive. And so we're going to talk about that quite a bit more. In hour number 2, we've got coming up the daily list. And in today's daily list are some psychology tricks you can use to influence people. So please, it's not going to earn you money. That's not the idea. We're not trying to scam people. We're trying to influence people in a positive way. And can that benefit us? Sure, of course. But we're not trying to trick people in some kind of nefarious way. Then we've also got coming up Me, Myself, and I. I'm going to share today's story about human beings, why we behave the way we do. And today we're going to talk about 5 psychological mindsets you need to succeed. So if you want to be a success at something, 5 kinds of ways of thinking that will help you achieve that success. And then, of course, we're going to have the perfect playlist. This is something we do every day. The theme lately has been songs about June because, we find ourselves in June. And we've got some songs coming up for that theme as well. And, of course, I will be checking your messages throughout the show. Sometimes I apologize if I can't get to everybody, but I do appreciate all the messages you send in. What we were talking about today is what is a phrase or expression you use to motivate yourself. 동기부여를 위해 사용하는 문구나 표현은 무엇인가요? So, for example, Andrew said if it's easy, then everyone would do it. That was one he was talking about with his son and playing piano, right? That's something that can kind of make you think what you're doing is unique and special. So therefore, it's probably not going to be easy. It will be hard. But, you should keep pushing through, keep doing it. One that I keep thinking back to for myself is, this will be good for me in the long run. Maybe I'm not enjoying the short-term part of doing this, the near term, but in the long term, this will be something useful for me. This will, maybe improve my skills, perhaps build my confidence, or just something like I could just share later, like, hey, guess what I did? That's kind of cool. So send us in your answers. You can text us here at 샵9050 or pound 9050 for 100 won. Or you can reach us on Kakao Talk for free. You just have to search BEFM or Busan영어방송, and you can add us there and then send messages for free. You can also download the smartphone app. If you go to your app store and search BEFM or 부산영어방송 at any of those app stores, you can download our program there, and you can listen to the entire show with music included. And if you log in, you can leave us comments. So that's a pretty good deal. So think about it. What is something that makes you kind of feel motivated or you use to motivate yourself? Let's see. So we've got, for example, this is a quote, I guess, from LeBron James, kind of famous person. Yeah, this could be something maybe you've heard somebody else say. I like criticism. It makes you strong. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So in other words, sometimes you might do something and you're like, oh, if I do this, people are going to, make fun of me or criticize me or say I'm terrible or, people aren't going to like me. But according to Mr. LeBron James, who I think is doing pretty well for himself, I like criticism. It makes you strong. In other words, face that criticism. This will kind of build character, and then you can face more criticism in the future and not worry about it. That's something I like as well. So cool. Keep sending us your messages. Keep sending us your ideas. Ben also has some university English teaching experience, and he says, I pretended not to know Korean. So this is something depends on the class. Sometimes I want to show my students that I do understand Korean because I think without doing that, they will feel like they just cannot communicate in the class. And they'll be like, I want to say something, but I can't. So in that kind of situation, I do let the students know, like, okay, I speak Korean reasonably well. And what I'm trying to do there is like, okay, you have something you want to say? Cool. That's even more important. This is a communication class. Communicate your ideas. You say it in Korean, I will teach you how to say that in English, right? So 한국말 먼저 하고 제가 번역할 수 있어요. So 예를 들면. So yeah, it depends. But some classes, I am totally with you. I just totally pretended not to know Korean at all in the hopes that they will be motivated to communicate. So motivation can come in all sorts of forms, right? Yeah, so what motivates you? That's what I want to see. So yeah, send us your messages. And in the meantime, we'll take a quick song break and we'll be back with the daily list after this. We're going to listen to Daniel Seavey with The Older You Get. All right, you just heard The Older You Get by Daniel Seavey, and this music means it is time for the daily list. Get pumped, because it's a Monday and we need to have a list that's going to help you out this week, right? And we've got for this week, for this Monday, we've got psychology tricks you can use to influence people. Again, this is, in a good way. We're not trying to make people feel bad or trying to take advantage of somebody or trick somebody into doing something they don't want to do. The idea here is to kind of make friends in a different way or perhaps influence people in a positive way using psychology. So let's see what we've got today. We've got first, get favors. So this is also called the Benjamin Franklin effect. The idea is to get someone to do a favor for you, and this will lead to them liking you. And you're like, what? Maybe? Because if I ask somebody to do something, won't that kind of put them off? Won't they not want to talk to me or not want to associate with me? But apparently this comes from a story where Benjamin Franklin once wanted to win over somebody who didn't like him. And if you're like me, when you have somebody who doesn't like you, it really bothers you. Yeah, I definitely have that where I'm like, oh, what's the problem? I want to kind of solve that problem. So Benjamin Franklin, I think, kind of well known as a pretty smart person. He decided to ask the men to lend him a rare book. And then when he got the book from the guy, he thanked him graciously. He was like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. As a result, the man who actually never wanted to talk to him before ended up becoming good friends with Benjamin Franklin. So to quote Mr. Franklin, he that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged. Now, okay, that's that fancy-sounding old Benjamin Franklin sound of English, right? So, in other words, if you do something, if somebody does something nice for you, they will be ready to do another nice thing to you, more so than if you do something nice for them. Does that make sense? Okay, so all right. Also, is there any proof of this being true? Well, actually, scientists decided to test this theory, and they found that those who were asked by the researcher for a personal favor rated the researcher much more favorably than other groups did. So this was a comparison between a couple of groups. This researcher asked some people for a favor and did not ask other groups, and the people that he asked the favor of were like, oh, yes, I like this person. And you might be thinking, well, that kind of, why would that be? But the idea is, if someone does a favor for you, they're likely to rationalize that you must have been worth doing the favor for, and then decide that they must like you. So in other words, if you ask somebody for something, whether it's help or to maybe borrow something or for them to give you something, and they decide, okay, I'm going to do it, in their brain, they're kind of like, well, yeah, I'll do it for this person. This seems like a good person. And then that kind of has a positive effect of where, oh, I like this person because I decided I would help them, or I decided I would let them borrow something. So it's kind of a positive snowball effect in a way, right? So once they decide to make that decision to, yes, I will help you, that means I also must like you. So it's interesting. It's kind of the reverse of how you might think about it. Okay, so that's number one, get favors. So in other words, don't be shy about asking somebody for a favor if you need it, and especially maybe if it's somebody you feel that doesn't like you. I think I'll consider trying this out. I would definitely feel a little bit uncomfortable approaching somebody that I think doesn't like me. I guess Benjamin Franklin was a very brave individual. I'll see if I can psych myself up, motivate myself to do that. This will be good for me, right? It might be uncomfortable to ask that person, but in the end, this will be good for me. Second on the list, we've got aim high. This means basically ask for more than you want at first and then scale it back later. So this is sometimes known as the door in the face approach. So in other words, you start by asking for something maybe a little bit ridiculous at first, something they will probably say no to. And then you kind of come back shortly thereafter and ask for something a little less outrageous or a little less ridiculous. And that should be the thing you actually wanted in the first place. This also might feel a little counterintuitive, but the idea is that basically the person will feel bad for refusing your first request, even though you asked for something a little bit unreasonable. So when you ask for something reasonable, they will feel like, maybe I should actually do this one. All right. And now, again, this sounds like this could be misused. I'm not talking about amounts of money. Hey, could I borrow $1 million and then, ask later, how about just 100? I guess you could apply it to that situation as well, but that's not the idea here. We're probably trying to something a little more personal, maybe asking somebody for help, or maybe asking if somebody knows something, right? Maybe some knowledge that they could impart on you. And you might be like, they would definitely not say yes to helping me this. Have that ready for your first ask, and then something a little more reasonable for the second ask. Okay, but again, does this work? Well, apparently some scientists decided to test this idea as well, and they found that it worked extremely well as long as the same person asked for both the bigger and smaller favor, because the person feels obliged to help you the second time and not anyone else. So the key point is there, you have to ask for both things. So don't put somebody else up to it. Don't say, hey, can you ask for me to, I really want to learn how to do coding. A friend of mine, he's big into coding. A lot of people are into coding these days. It's kind of maybe a job you can do when you travel. And a friend of mine has been into it. He's tried to get me into it, but I don't want to start because I have no basis. I have no idea where to begin. So I kind of want my friend to help me, but he's busy. He works. He's got 2 jobs. And part of that is doing coding. Does he really want to take the time to teach me how to do it? So I could perhaps say, hey, how about, could you just really quick, just like teach me everything you know? And he's going to be like, no, I don't have time to do that. Maybe my second question could be like, how about just maybe like a 5-minute course to get me started, and then I can pick up on my own. I think that's more along the idea, what we're looking for there. Yeah, not trying to get money out of people, I think. Okay, next on the list, we've got flattery. Flattery is, basically praising people, saying something to impress them or make them feel good about themselves. And the idea is flattery will actually get you everywhere. So flattery can be a good thing. And this might seem obvious because, if you try to make somebody feel good, then obviously they will feel good and they will want to interact with you, right? But there are some important caveats to this. So in other words, some things you shouldn't do. So for beginners, it's important to note that if the flattery is not seen as sincere, it's going to do more harm than good. In other words, make sure if you're saying something about somebody to make them feel good about themselves, make sure it's true and make sure it's something you really believe. If you just make up something, they'll probably see right through it. But researchers have studied the motivations behind people's reactions to flattery, and they found some very important things. They found that people tend to look for cognitive balance. In other words, they try to always keep their thoughts and feelings organized in a similar way. So if you flatter someone who has high self-esteem and it is seen as sincere, they will like you more as you're kind of validating how they feel about themselves. However, this is where it could backfire. If you try to flatter someone who has low self-esteem or somebody who doesn't take compliments well because they don't have good self-feelings, there's a chance it could backfire and cause them to like you less because it interferes with how they perceive themselves. So that doesn't mean, however, you should talk down or insult a person with low self-esteem. It just means be careful with how you approach it. You should know the person well, I think, in other words, to kind of gauge, does this person take compliments well? Does this person not like compliments? You can tell when you compliment somebody. When I receive a compliment, I kind of like, oh yeah, thanks, and then, kind of brush it off. So you can tell maybe I'm not the best at receiving compliments. So if you flatter me too much, I'm going to be like, this is nonsense. I don't believe it. I don't even believe it about myself. So careful with flattery. One more on the list, we've got mirroring. This is a kind of technique where you copy behavior, also known as mimicry. And this is something we often do naturally as people. We are communicative creatures. So often we kind of mimic the way that people talk to us, maybe the body movements, the gestures. And this can be done with skill. If you are Somebody who can do this well, you might be considered a chameleon. You might be able to blend into your environment just by copying how other people talk, how other people's behavior, their mannerisms. And you can use this skill consciously to make yourself more likable. And again, it's not try to to lie or present yourself in a false way, but this is a skill that some people have naturally, and this is a skill that can be developed. And there has been some study on this. Researchers have studied mimicry, and they've found that those who had been mimicked were much more likely to act favorably toward the person who mimicked them. So in other words, if somebody noticed that their behavior was being kind of copied in a positive way, not like mockingly, in a kind of similarity, right? So this person kind of talks the way I do, or kind of interacts the way I do, they kind of naturally like that person. Even more interesting was the second find was they found that someone who mimicked their behavior were actually nicer and more agreeable than other people. So in other words, to compare themselves to other people, if you notice that somebody kind of acts the way you do or talks kind of in a similar way, you kind of find them to be just like a nicer person. Interesting. And it's likely that the reason why this works is because mirroring someone's behavior makes them feel validated. So I think a lot of us, we kind of question how we feel and how we act and how we behave, right? So if we see somebody who does what we do in a similar way, we kind of like, I'm normal, I'm good. This person is like me too. Yeah, so it's kind of a boost of self-esteem, in other words. And again, you should be careful with that. Don't mimic somebody to the point where they feel uncomfortable or feel like you're making fun of them. One final quick one, nodding. Nodding while you talk. I do this a lot. You maybe saw when Andrew was in here. I feel like I nod a lot when people are talking, especially if you do this when you ask a favor. Before you ask the favor, people are likely to respond positively, and they're more likely to agree. So maybe that's why I'm nodding all the time. You see me here? Yeah. Very good. So that's going to do it today for our daily list. And these are definitely some good things you can take away to influence people in a positive way. So that was our psychological tricks to influence people in a positive way. Let's take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Don't You Want Me by Human League, and we'll be back after that. All right, welcome back, everybody. You just listened to Don't You Want Me by Human League, classic jam. Na PD reminded me that song's a bit older than I remembered. Wow, yes, I remember hearing that song in my youth. That song's been around a bit, but I still love hearing it. Something about that drum beat, I think. So, now it is time for Me, Myself, and I, and we're going to talk about psychological mindsets that you need to succeed. So before we were talking about kind of how to influence other people, right? But this is kind of turning it more on yourself, how you can succeed in thinking about being positive to kind of put you in the right mindset so that you will succeed, right? So in other words, kind of changing your mindset, your frame of mind, turning from negatives into positives, right? And that's probably, there's so many kinds of benefits besides success, but success is one of them, and that's one thing that people are very concerned with, right? Succeeding at work, succeeding in life, succeeding in love, all the varieties of ways that we want to succeed. So, okay, here's some ideas that we can take and use to make ourselves more likely to succeed using positivity. Okay, so here we go. A positive reinforcement mindset. Okay, so according to classical psychological research on reinforcement theory, there clearly shows that positive reinforcement, which means rewarding desirable behavior, is better than punishment and leading to success. All right, so in other words, if you reward good behavior or reward desired behavior, that's better than just receiving punishment. That will not lead to success in most cases, right? Okay, so what does this mean in terms of a mindset? Well, you can reinforce yourself when you accomplish any kind of goal. You can do something positive. Get yourself something. Buy yourself something. Buy yourself a treat. Call a friend. Call a loved one. That's way better than beating yourself up if you haven't accomplished your goal or if you've made a mistake. So you succeed at something, give yourself a little reward. And then you'll want to succeed again because not only the feeling of success, but the fact that you get something out of it for yourself. You know, like, if I do this, how am I going to treat myself this time? Maybe I'll take a long motorcycle ride in the country, for example. I don't know. That's something I like to reward myself every now and then with a solo ride out somewhere. And yeah, it's just kind of acknowledging that you succeeded in a way and giving yourself a compliment. So that's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. Second, we've got a learning orientation. So this is a positive psychological mindset you can set for yourself, a learning orientation. So in other words, approach everything as if it is an opportunity to learn. So I was saying that before, when I think about something I don't want to do and I'm trying to kind of motivate myself, to psych myself up, this will be good for me. I think this is kind of similar. This is like, whatever I do, this is going to be an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for learning, and it doesn't matter if it's a new situation or exposing yourself to differing opinions or possible ridicule if you don't do something well. It could be a mistake you've made, or this can be even an instance of success. Try to get some kind of lesson from it. So in other words, like, look for what lessons are available in anything that you do. And there are plenty of them out there from my experience. I feel like I'm learning all day long, even though a large part of my job is teaching. I feel like most of the time I'm actually learning from others, and that includes my students as well. According to psychologist Carol Dweck, this is kind of having a growth mindset. That's another way to look at it. So one way you can do this is you can have an after-event review. Take some time to reflect on your experiences. I have a little notebook here next to my chair. I'm always writing in it, after the show, after a class. I like to reflect on what happened and just kind of take a moment to be like, all right, what worked well, what didn't work, what will I improve next time? Another thing you can add to that list, what did I learn from that experience? And how can I take that learning and perhaps use it to be more successful in the future? Is this a goal I can apply, or is this a kind of information I can apply in other situations as well? And according to the psychologist, she does this in every situation when she has consultations with a leader or a work team, or even after a class. And she says, I'm always amazed at how much I've learned from working with others about their perspectives on things, problems they've encountered, etc. And I always come away grateful thinking to myself, I get paid for the opportunity to learn more. And I feel that exactly right now. I'm learning every day at this job. I love doing this, and there's probably some things I will learn to do better, learn to improve. I'm learning from listeners. I'm learning from guest segments. This is a great learning experience. And, is that the main goal of this job? I don't know, but it's something that I benefit from, so I appreciate that. Another psychological mindset for success is a productivity mindset. So the idea here is to focus on performance, get things done. I have a hard time with this one. So the idea is to focus on achieving goals, but also with your eye toward quality, not just quantity of output. And sometimes I feel like that can be hard to do. It totally depends on what your job is, right? Sometimes quantity may be what people expect of you. But if you can kind of focus on this productivity mindset, quantity is perhaps more important of an outcome. Maybe our bosses might not realize that in all occasions, but for us personally, we want to feel proud of what we do, right? So the idea is not to only look at what you do, but how you do it. So create an environment that promotes productivity, and that will be key. So according to this author, when the author wrote their first book, I was careful to set up my writing environment to maximize efficiency and productivity. I've done that here in a slight way in the studio. I've kind of been like, all right, I'm going to adjust things so I can kind of focus more easily, more efficiently, and it makes me more comfortable, and hopefully that comes across to you in the way I'm talking. So yeah, I totally get that. I want to be more efficient, more productive, but I also want to have a quality show, so I will do what I need to do to kind of make it easier for me to do that. Another bit of advice is to set small goals. Kind of break down, if you have a big project, especially, into small defined pieces, and use this positive reinforcement mindset we mentioned earlier. Reward yourself when you accomplish these mini goals. So you don't have to wait to reward yourself at the end per se. As you achieve these little goals along the way, cool. Take a break, reward yourself. Perhaps a little chocolate. I'm so hungry. I feel like chocolate would be, that would be an excellent reward for myself right now. But it can be anything. And a productivity mindset should also take into account your work-life balance. So, of course, you do need to include time for yourself, your friends, and your family in your life, right? So not just products, things we produce. We are human too. We need to save time for ourselves, right? Okay, one more we've got here. Turning a stressor into a challenge. And I think this is kind of going back again to what I said for myself. When you got something that maybe kind of stresses you out, whether it's your student saying, hey, why don't you do a Korean presentation for the first time ever? Okay, that's going to cause me a little bit of stress, but this will also challenge me in a positive way. And that's the idea. This is a lesson we can take from psychological research on hardiness. So one thing that differentiates hardy individuals from those who lack hardiness is the way that they perceive stressful situations. So instead of allowing yourself to be overwhelmed by something that can cause stress, reframe it and perceive it as a challenge that only needs to be overcome. So don't give in to this thing that's going to give you, okay, it will probably cause a little bit of stress, but that's okay. Think of ways you can kind of overcome this. You're going to resolve it, and then you'll have done this. And this is another thing you can look back on and be like, yeah, well, I did that. And I can do the next thing. I'm ready for the next challenge. Cool. So those are some of these psychological mindsets you can use to succeed for yourself. And that's very useful. There's a couple, I think, a learning orientation. I think I'm going to try to reframe the way I look at things. What can I learn from this situation? I think I'm definitely going to take that one into account for myself. Cool. And to bring us to the end of Me, Myself, and I for today, I think we've got a very good song that kind of sums up this feeling. This is a song by an artist named Tom Petty. The title is I Won't Back Down, and that's kind of the idea, right? Success is based on that feeling. I won't back down. So let's take a listen to this, and we'll be back with the perfect playlist.
They would pray to the moon, but he'd never return.
All right, that was Tea in the Sahara by the Police, and before that was Afternoon Tea by the Kinks. And we're going to have to wrap it up, everybody. That was a very fast show for me. I hope you enjoyed it today. This has been the 2 p.m. Reboot, and I've been your host, Casey McKeever. And, of course, we're going to reboot again tomorrow at 2:05 p.m. I'm sorry I didn't get to all the messages, but silly, I wanted to say, yes, I will try to motivate you to, listen to the show every day. So, yes, I will do that for you. And thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for Your Busan, and we'll be back tomorrow. On our last song today, we're going to play Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.